Ashita, stop trolling me. Please, please, please stop trolling me. Please. Because it's obvious that Sasaki and Kaneki are one. They are the same character. It is obvious. It's so painfully obvious after this chapter. I talked about the similarities between Kaneki and Sasaki in my last review, but with this chapter, Chapter 2 of Tokyo Ghoul Ray, it's even more obvious. There's a lot more elements in this chapter that foreshadow and hint at Kaneki being Sasaki. I want to get into the details and talk about that. So, at the beginning of this chapter, Chapter 2, you see a white-haired version that looks like Sasaki or Kaneki. And it's solid white hair, so the only person I know of that comes close to mine that looks like that is Kaneki. And the way I'm judging from the overall look of the first page that showed, Kaneki sitting on something, like he was sitting down, and you saw books all around him and all that, and you saw, like, his human eye was covered up, I'm guessing... I think the events of that picture, if that is Kaneki, which I am 100% certain because it has the same fingernails. Look at the fingernails, too. The fingernails are black. And as we know, Kaneki's fingernails are black, too, when he got white hair. So, it makes me believe that that is Kaneki after Arima and him had their big fight at the end of Tokyo Ghoul. The reason why, I have a theory for this. Because the reason why Kaneki has that bandage on him like that, in that picture on the first page, is because he is still recovering after being impaled through the fucking head by Arima. I'm going to say it right now. I am saying that right now, that it is obvious that first page was Kaneki. Okay? So, besides that, let's move on to the other points why I say that Kaneki is Sasaki. For one thing, there's a specific thing in this chapter, actually two things, that point towards Sasaki being Kaneki. For one, I want to get into the, harder one to notice, and then I'll get into the simple one. The harder one to notice was when you saw Sasaki go home, and you saw Musaki actually saying she needs to eat. Like, he wants to eat, or she, I don't know exactly if that's a girl or guy, I'm sorry. But either way, Musaki wanted food. And so you had Sasaki say, here, I'll make you something, and he, had this little bit of inner monologue going on inside him, and says he prefers to help people. Now, if I remember... Let's back up here real quick, and let's think about this. What character in Tokyo Ghoul, main character-wise, would go out of their way to help people, and actually got hurt by helping people? Kaneki. Remember that entire inner monologue conversation with, Rize and Kaneki in his mind? You remember that? That entire bit with Sasaki talking, saying, he watches other people, he prefers to help people and stuff. I'm like... I feel the Kaneki coming off of Sasaki. It's so obvious. It's so painfully obvious. Ishida, you might as well reveal it. It's obvious. Now let's get into the bigger thing that is just downright easy to notice in this chapter. Anyone that knows what RC levels are and how high RC levels should be probably instantly detected how different Sasaki is from the other Quinkeis in Sasaki's group. Sasaki is confirmed to have an RC level of 2,753. That is absolutely ridiculous. It is not that high. We think about in terms of levels of a Kakuja when, ghouls devour other ghouls. But still, the point is that is a high RC level. And from what we learned from this chapter of Tokyo Ghoul, is that these other ghouls that has been introduced in Tokyo Ghoul Ray, Ure, Shirazu, and, Cookie-chan, I'm gonna call her Cookie-chan, because a couple of Chibis are calling her Cookie-chan, just these other characters that introduced, pretty much. These other ghouls, half-ghouls, as we found out last chapter, well, pretty much... their RC levels are not that high. The maximum RC level, I think, is 920-something, and the others are below that. But Sasaki's in the 2,700 range, which is pretty fucking ridiculous. That is a ridiculous range, especially for a regular half-ghoul that supposedly is an investigator. Now, what I want to say is that pretty much, as we found out, the ghouls underneath, a certain level of RC levels, are red child cells, which was revealed this chapter. Interesting name to RC levels. I did not expect red child cells. I don't know if that was ever mentioned before in the past. If it was, I'm sorry. But I personally don't remember RC levels ever being mentioned red child cells before. So that was a little bit of a unveil of what RC cells are actually called, the full name. But anyways, back on topic. We find out that these other half-ghouls that were introduced supposedly can eat regular food. For instance, Musuki in this chapter asked Sasaki to make him or her food. And so it shows that they can eat regular food, because we did see a glimpse of this last chapter. We saw Cookie-chan, as some people call her, pretty much eating cookies. And, I mean, we saw this entire aspect before with a ghoul eating food before, like mild curry, for instance, Eto. You remember Eto eating mild curry? Well, I thought exactly the reason why Cookie-chan was eating cookies is because she liked him, even though technically they were nasty to her, and she was kind of like Eto. But in this chapter, it's revealed that these ghouls, these new ghouls that I'm guessing underwent a surgery that is revealed by this doctor, Dr. Shiba in this chapter, pretty much, they can eat regular food, unless their RC levels get to a certain threshold. Now, it's not revealed if they get these RC levels to a certain threshold, will it go back down, and for instance, can they eat regular food again? Like, what would happen if Urei and Shirazu, you know, have their RC levels go up to 2,000, like Sasuke? This is just me theorizing. What if the RC levels go up that high? Can their RC levels go back down to where they can eat normal food, or are they permanently stuck as a permanent ghoul? That is my big question right now after this chapter. That's exactly my question right now. The other question I have is exactly what is this surgery? Dr. Shiba, you know, lets us know that there is a surgery going on making these ghouls, so apparently all these ghouls, these half-ghouls, are recent. They are very recent. And so they're definitely not ghouls that were experimented on like Kaneki, so they are definitely recent ghouls that came about by the Dove organization making them. So the big question is like, what is so different? What is different about these ghouls from Kaneki or Sasuke? Because in this, we also get a little bit of hints that Sasuke cannot eat normal food. It's hinted at. Because the way he makes the food for Musuki in this chapter, like the way he looks and the way his face looks in that panel, it makes me think that like he doesn't remember the taste of food. Like, he doesn't remember what it tastes like at all, or he probably doesn't know what it tastes like, since technically we don't know if Sasuke is Kaneki, but if it is, he probably doesn't remember the taste of food. Now, I do want to bring up something else. Now, let's get into the actual other portions besides talking about the new experimental ghoul freaking squad. In this chapter, I noticed something that actually made me think about something. There is a specific scene in this chapter that shows Serpent. Serpent is talking. And you see an up-close face of Serpent. You don't see the upper eye part, but you see the lower part of the mouth. And we see, like, you know, Serpent's wearing this raincoat. I want to take a theory real quick, okay? I personally believe Serpent is Toka. Yeah, let me explain why. The reason why I think Serpent is Toka is because if we look back at Chapter 2, this chapter, you will see Toka with a raincoat on, like a jacket over her head. And if we look at this chapter, you will see Serpent with the exact same design of a jacket on the head. So, I think Toka is Serpent. Now, there's a theory, this theory that I'm about to talk about is not my own. I saw a bunch of Chibits mentioning this last week. Okay, so Torso. Torso that has been built up this chapter and last chapter that's revealed to be one of the main antagonists, I'm guessing, of this arc, supposedly, from what I saw Chibits theorizing, is that maybe Torso is Shu. On the first chapter of Tokyo Rei, we see a fellow ghoul mourning Shu, like he's gone crazy, like he's gone mad after the disappearance of Kaneki, so Shu could have gone off the deep end and could be Torso, hunting down random victims and killing people. So, I saw these theories that maybe Shu is Torso. And the reason why this makes me believe that is because from the first chapter, like the first color pages of Tokyo Ghoul Rei, you will see that little girl, you know, like this little girl or boy, Hori, and you'll see, you know, how she's just twitching her legs and all, you see her holding the camera and stuff on the first chapter of this series. And in this chapter, she pops up in front of Urei and Shirazu, and you see her pop up and say, like, I'm 24. And as we know, she has a connection to Shu. She is like Shu's informant. And there's also some theories that maybe Hori is the cousin or sibling of Shu. And so, for this character to pop up now, it makes me instantly believe that she is going to tell us that Torso is Shu. And I think when Sasuke sees Shu, he might remember that he's Kaneki. Or Shu, or Torso, might remember himself and he notices Kaneki and he might get out of his rampage. Or he could say Kaneki and rush, you know, Sasuke. That could possibly happen. Overall, this is going to conclude my review of Tokyo Ghoul Rei Chapter 2. Tell me your thoughts in the comments below, how you felt about this chapter. It was a wonderful chapter, a lot of information. Hard to believe in just 24 pages we had this much information this week. Tell me your thoughts. Love you all so much. Please be safe. Chibi out.